Season 9 has been flying by, and it is hard to believe we are on the last 3 weeks of the season. If you have ever spent time in frenzy searching for medical records from different doctors, like I have, get ready for true value as well as tons of entrepreneurial lessons. I'm Vincent A. Lanci, and welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show. Each week on this platform, I interview a different entrepreneur from across the country and around the globe. Whether you are looking to start or scale your business, this is the show for you. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. As the founder of MatchRite Care, he has been helping people's lives for the better. Their objective is to deliver a patient's personal health records right to their hand in a clean and simple format. I found an amazing feature out when I was doing this, and his patients can aggregate all of their medical records regardless of a different provider. And as someone who spent their fair share of time in dozens of doctors' offices, I found this company to be appealing. And with over 20 years in the field, it is no wonder that this service has found success. Allow me to now introduce Christopher Jones. Christopher, thank you so much for joining the show.
Appreciate you having me, Vincent. Appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners and previewing your story without giving away too much of the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Christopher Jones. I've been in IT for over 20 years. Most recently, I was an IT director for a healthcare company where we oversaw software development and software integration. So that's kind of the background of my experience. Jumping into why I created MatchRite Care and why it started, it's kind of similar to yours, Vincent, is that it's always a tragedy. Sometimes through tragedy, you can find triumph, So in 2008, I had a 5-year-old son diagnosed with brain tumor, brain stem glioma. And from diagnosis, the doctor gave him 1 year to live. And within that time frame, we missed a clinical trial because we couldn't get his medical records in time. So you're looking back in 2008, 2009 with X-ray scans. There was no Dropbox. There was none of these elaborate little tools, online tools. So we would have to get a CD-ROM. So we missed the clinical trial because I didn't have his records and wasn't able to ship it out to a clinical trial for him. Looking back at it now, knowing what I know now, that the clinical trial might not have helped him. But how do you tell a 33-year-old parent with a 5-year-old son, that, hey, we can't get him in this trial? So I would go on to be an IT health care director in the healthcare field. So I would start to see it on two platforms, right? One as, a professional, really looking at the records, see the issues with the records, the real issues, right? The redundancy, the inaccuracies between the records. But as a parent, you're able to see the real need of the benefit of having the records, So, and that kind of birthed MatchRite Care, So we started in 2017, 2018 rather is when we started. It started out as a hobby trying to fix a problem. I never really looked at it as trying to create a business, So the startup world is kind of funny to me. I hate saying startup because I don't never really consider it a startup. It's just, trying to solve some issues, within the healthcare industry, whatever. But, here we are now. We're able to kind of move ahead. We're working with 6 of the EHRs right now. Those are electronic healthcare software companies that we're working with now. So we're working with those groups. So it's really interesting, the path that we took to get here and how we are here now. But I always try to stay true to what brought me here. You know what I mean?
I'm very happy I got to connect with you. It's an amazing story. And you filled a need. Everybody listening on, he filled a need. He didn't necessarily think it would be growing to the way it is now, but he saw something in a firsthand experience. He's making it happen. Now I have to ask here, Christopher, was this your first entrepreneurial endeavor? I know you had experience for years in the IT field. This is your first company that you started?
No, I say this joke all the time, so it's probably cliche, but I've been an entrepreneur since in 5th grade when I was selling now laters to the other kids,
Let's talk about that journey since 5th grade. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a journey, right? So I've done that. I've done, buy and sell houses type. I try to get in that. I've tried to, even as far as like Tupperware or whatever. So I think an entrepreneur, you always have it at heart. So we always look at the startup, something that gets traction as when I started my journey. But really, I think a lot of times when it starts, just as growing up, right? If it's in you, it's in you, Sometimes it manifests even within your job, you become an entrepreneur, even within your job, how you try to college your way through the different departments, right? How to grow within your job. It still is an entrepreneur mindset, right? Because all it is a hustle, right? So.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. It would definitely relate to a lot of people, from the water iced tea stands growing up on the block, fifth grade, growing all the way back. I can resonate there. Was there something that actually pushed you to wanting to be a hustler, an entrepreneur, or like you say, it was engraved in you rather than going the 9 to 5 route? What made you choose this?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think freedom, right, to do what you want to do. I
Yeah,
think, all my siblings, we're kind of the same way. We kind of have the mindset of kind of, we want to be as free as possible, right? You're never completely free. You're always
right.
indebted to somebody or something, right? But you want to be as loose as possible. And I think for me, I work 9 to 5 was good at it, and I can do my job well, but when they looked at the opportunities outside of that, you always kind of balance it, right? What are the benefits and what are the deficits there. And sometimes, a lot of times, when you really take a clean look at it, your benefits are a lot more prevalent than on your own than actually sitting in a job. So, and I still balance my job now, that and still do the entrepreneur, because for a long time I had to balance them both. So you got to know when to move. Even though you want to be able to move, you got to know when's the right timing for you, and it's not always what everybody else says or what everybody else did. It has to be the right timing for you, and that's a balance. And there's no book for that. You know what I mean? So I just think you just got to always be on the cusp, wanting to be something more. And the want just to drive the need for you to put in the work, and then you put in the work. Then when it happens, you're ready. So it's just a process that is not really booked to. You just got to kind of follow your own gut.
There's definitely a lot of positives, and there's definitely a lot of difficult parts of being on your own. Let's talk about some of the more challenging parts of being on your own. What are the two of the most challenging?
Family, right? And I will say family because it's most mental, because at the same time when you're moving on your own and you got other people depending on you, whatever, it makes those decisions a lot more difficult, and moving ahead. So it would be more mentally for me, because that is the most, complicated driver of any of these journeys, right? Is mentally, are you mentally prepared?
Yep.
And I found that my linchpin is that if it if I didn't make it through and it fails, whatever, my family is in turmoil, So back in my younger days, so you see how it shifts, right? So your entrepreneur mindset shifts, right? Back in my younger days, it's just me. I don't care. I was like, man, I live in my frat brother's couch, whatever. I make it work. But as you grow through your life and you grow and get older, whatever, some of those, things have to shift to where you got more responsibilities.
Right.
So as I as I went through this journey, when I started this, is that I was out of job for like about a year, maybe 4 months, 4 years earlier, whatever. I knew how that felt to struggle. So to make the decision when I started MatchRite to walk away, is really, difficult. And I still haven't completely walked away from my job at all now. I'm still there, because I know what that balance is. So for me right now, that hustle, that drive that I had maybe 5 or 6 years ago, as you get older, mature, you have to be, cognizant of when's the right timing for you. And sometimes those drive my family is the biggest one right now, if not the only one, right? Because every decision I make is I want to make sure they're okay. I
Absolutely.
got a daughter in college. I got a 7-year-old that's autistic, the niece. I got a 13-year-old boy that's just going to teenage years for them. So those are the things, the biggest drivers of it.
You have the flexibility of having your own schedule on the entrepreneurial side of things, which gives you the ability to be with your family. But you're a hustler. You have a lot going on here. You've learned a lot, obviously, too, along the way here, Christopher.
Yeah.
Explain your biggest lesson learned for our listeners.
For me, the biggest lesson learned is that it's possible, right? Because I think, the same thing that's driving that is possible. Because of this, when you start it and you're really thinking of it, you want to hustle, you're like, man, I'm not going that direction because um, I don't know if it's gonna work for me, whatever. I can't see it or silver lining, but
Yeah.
still I'm a little religious, so I put a little religion there too. So
Hmm.
you gotta have a little faith sometimes. And that faith is the evidence of things not seen, which means that you have to walk out there without even seeing it, but you got to be able to visualize it. And if you can visualize it and knowing it's possible, I think that's what helps drive you. But you got to be able to see it. You know what I mean? Mentally, not physically. It's sometimes it's not tangible. It's not even visible in your view, right? But you got to know it's out there. So knowing that it's possible is the biggest lesson that I learned, because if you never start, you'll never get there.
You have to believe in yourself and manifest it into reality. You have to visualize it, like you're saying. I love that. And it all comes and stems from being confident in yourself, doing what it takes to put yourself in the position to succeed. And sometimes that comes with learning, having conversations like you and I are having right now, Christopher. If you could choose to have a conversation and learn from any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who's your pick?
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney, love it. Let's talk about why.
I just think his vision to see Disney World, right? And I think to put that in place. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Disney World didn't manifest till after he passed, which means that his seats was so strong, his vision was so big that he didn't have to be here for it to manifest. And I think that was a big thing that I get out of him.
I'm going to take it a step further here, and there's obviously many places within even one place to have it happen. Where would this meeting go down? Where would the location be? And I said that as it could be a million places inside Disney World. It could be anywhere in the world. Your pick. What's happening?
I'm gonna flip it on you, right? So I'm in Kansas City right now. So where you drew his first Mickey Mouse is right on 31st Street, and it's not in the urban areas, kind of hood over there, whatever, a little bit, whatever.
In Kansas
And
City.
it's in Kansas City. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So I would have it right in that spot, and I think it's boarded up now, really. But it's a landmark, so you can't get rid of it. I would walk in that building, open those doors, and sit down and have a conversation with him there.
I did not know that. Thank you for teaching me something new. When did that building get boarded up? I know it's a landmark. You're saying they're
Yeah, so
preserving
I
it.
don't. It's always so they have a drawing on it. So it's when I say it's on 31st. They're rebuilding that area now, but it's been there for a while. Like it's been there for years since I don't know 30s, whatever. I've worked at Hallmark as well. So the owners of Hallmark and Disney were close. So I know a lot of their story too. But been boarded as long as I've been here. So I've been here since '97. So I think it's been closed off. It's not open up. It's not. You would think it'd be a museum or something. But it's just a building that a big Mickey Mouse drawing that sits right there.
Well, it's an excellent choice. Can't argue with it, and a lot of good reasons why, because of what he stands for. But now we're going to look into the future. We're going to do short term and long term here, Christopher. Where do you see yourself and all of your entrepreneurial endeavors 1 year from today, 2 years from today, short term?
Short term, I would hope to be in a position now to where I'm pulling somebody else up. I think I'm getting up in age now. I'm still young, but I'm older.
Yeah.
And I think at the lesson sometimes is always where I feel like I live my life, to where it's at now, and I want to help somebody else that was in my position before. So I would like to see
Love
myself
that. Yes.
a successful business, right? But pulling up people that could be, in my position or even better, down the line. So giving back is where I see myself next year, being in a position where I can give back a lot more.
Mentors, mentees, they play a huge role in the success of individuals. I can speak for myself as an entrepreneur. Mentors I've have dated back from high school, even into college, bouncing these ideas, they go a long way. So it's very admirable. Now let's look long term. What's on the horizon for Christopher Jones?
No, I want to be a black VC firm. That's what I want to do. I want to build something out that big to where we can have a really. And I think there's a lot of it's not just culturally whatever, but I think there's a lot of opportunity that's being missed. I think there's a lot of opportunity that's just as great that we're not tapping into. And that's just my experience, just my time here. I just think that there's a lot of opportunities that could be successful business that look like me, right? That move like me, and think like me too. And I want to be able to tap into that.
Some VC work, do some funding, and make some dreams come true, make some businesses come about. Love the ambition. And now for the spotlight story, this company, I think, would have gotten a lot of funding had it been in present day. And Christopher, each week I share an entrepreneurial journey to inspire our listeners, and I would love your take on this one. As we have a rock star Missouri entrepreneur on the show today, we will share the journey of another and one of Missouri's biggest entrepreneurs, Henry Block. That's right. The founder of H&R Block is a Kansas City man too. His commitment to never giving up, never engaging in any shortcuts, and always putting the customer first. These are things we hear about now, things you should do. This is what helped H&R Block soar to be a global firm. Him, along with his brother, Leon, began a bookkeeping service in 1946 with a $5,000 loan from their aunt, and they catered to small businesses right there in downtown Kansas City. As the company struggled in its first year, Leon left, but Henry persisted by himself, a true entrepreneur. He never gave up. Eventually, his brother Richard joined him and became partner. From there, it was off to the races. In 1995, the IRS decided to use Kansas City as a test market where it would forego the free tax preparation help that the agency had traditionally provided. Also, during that same year, an ad salesman at the Kansas City Star convinced the brothers to run 2 comic sketch ads offering personal income tax preparation for only $5 and that led to their office soon to be overrun by customers. And Henry Block was on the TV commercials known as America's Taxman, all from Kansas City. Christopher, what do you like best about his story?
I just think, well, your family, right? Because I mentioned, you heard me mention my siblings earlier. I just think being able to always incorporate family back into it. I think I love that because it's ironic that the brother left at first, but then came back. I think because at the end of the day, man, what you grow up and you lock in your family, you can always lock in. You don't have to be looking over your shoulder most times, So I do like the story that one stuck it out and the brother came back and kind of supported him as well.
Yeah, the one brother got his foot in the door, said it wasn't for him. Other brothers saw the value, came right in. Is this a popular story in Kansas City, this entrepreneur?
H&R Block is big, it's there, it's the halls that's here as well, Right now in Kansas City, right now, there's a couple huge startups here that done very well here too. That's kind of taking some of the smoke because you think a lot of these are legacy, and I think legacy companies, right? They've been around for a while, large companies, but there's the smaller companies. I'm at Hallmark right now, that's one of the jobs I'm at now, but there's these startup companies are starting to take over a little bit and really getting a lot of traction in a short amount of time. If you think about the Halls, the Disneys, and all these are 50 years in place. H&R Block almost over 20 plus years in place. Mm-hmm. But you're seeing some of these shorter startups getting in here and taking over. I'm not saying it's taken away from the H&R Block story, right, but there are some short-term stories that came in that's leveraging, success quite a bit.
I'm loving seeing the entrepreneurs even nationwide here in Tampa and St. Petersburg becoming a great big entrepreneurial hub. We have a lot of companies solely dedicated to growing startups. Shout out to Florida Founders. They raise funding, and Synapse Florida, bringing an ecosystem of entrepreneurs together. And that was a great analysis, Christopher. Thank you. And I also want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Ton of value in this episode. I love how you started in the beginning with your why you created your company. We can resonate on having true passion behind our businesses. I love since fifth grade, you're a hustler. Since then, you were an entrepreneur all the way around. And the Walt Disney answer, big vision. And this is a time without Google. He didn't have the opportunity to just hop on the internet and figure things out. So excellent choice. A lot of learning there. It's also time for the last word, though. I do this on my other show as well because I want the listeners to really have the opportunity to get to know you, Christopher. What do you want to end off on?
I think we end up, I think one thing you asked me, is what I see, and I said it was possible, but I want to just finish that up and say, without work, you'll never get there. You'll never get there, even though if you notice it's possible. There's a lot of people that have that vision and realize that it's possible. That's a big step to just realize that your vision is possible, but there's work that go behind it, whatever, and never give up. Once you get there, put the work in behind it and just never give up, because it's not just knowing that you can do it. You got to put the work to get there.
No substitute for hard work. No. I love that last words. Yeah, please.
No, it's not at all. I think that even some of your best vision, because for success, you got to have a vision, right? Most of these big entrepreneurs that are successful are what we call visionaries, right? Mm-hmm. But they can have the right vision, can see it, but without the right hard work, and I'll even supplement that even more, the team. So you can put in the work, whatever, but you only have two hands, right? You don't have one mind, one head, whatever. But along with the hard work, you got to accomplish the right team. So this here that you do, the podcast, a piece here, whatever, allows you to build a network, because that goes hand in hand. Is one part of it to be able to see the vision. Then the next step is to start putting the work. And then the last piece of that is you got to build a team around it. In order to do that, you got to get the right network, get your hands extended out. And I think this podcast is helpful for people, because sometimes your network isn't people that you talk to every day. It's being able to listen to a podcast and get some feedback and get some input and those things too. So I just kudos to you providing this value to entrepreneurs as well, because this becomes part of their network, right? You sit and talk to people that you normally wouldn't see before and you're able to get some input for it too. So first, I got to have the vision, you got to put in the work, and then you got to build that team, man.
I agree. It's like a modern business card on steroids, the podcast, where I have the opportunity to connect with you, and then we take it a step further. We do the face-to-face here on Zoom. Well, Christopher, can you let everybody listening on know how to find you, how to check out your company, all that?
Yeah, sure. So you go to www.matchritecare.com. That's MatchRitecare.com. Or you can reach me at chris.jones@matchritecare.com.
Go check out what he has to offer. You heard his valuable episode today, a ton of learning lessons, and his company is making a difference. It can certainly help you. So go ahead and check it out. And it's also social media time for the show. We're at That Entrepreneur Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And on Twitter, we're at Podcasts by Lanci. So you get updates from all of my shows. My handles are at Vincent A. Lanci for all social media and YouTube. And my website is vincentalanci.com. If you are interested in a signed book instead of Amazon, DM me. I would love to connect. I am a 3-time published author, and Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health is my most recent book available. As always, I will end the show with a quote that inspired me, and know it will for you too. This one is from today's Spotlight entrepreneur, Henry Block. The ethical decision is always the fearsome decision. When something matters enough that we are afraid of the consequences, afraid that even the honorable choice could result in harm or loss or sorrow, that's when ethics are involved. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next week on That Entrepreneur Show.